Hello, chess fans and everyone in today's video. So, what are we going to do today? As you can see, the topic we're focusing on opponent games, as you know. And in the previous video, as we were doing the corresponding squares opposition, we have in the last video we have done mind squares. What are we going to do now? So now we are going to do triangulation. Let's go. So, what is going on in this position, as you can see, and what is triangulation? And in the last video, I gave you a little hint, but let's get you something very big hint. Triangulation refers to a king maneuver which aims to lose a tempo and leave the opponent with the move. Okay, as you can see, the d5 and d7 squares are in correspondence. The mobility of black's king is restricted. He must watch for the c5 c6 break. Yes, and also avoid being pressed to the edge of the board. It's not surprising, therefore, that white can easily lose a tempo and place his opponent in zigzag. Yes, that's the main thing. Actually, here c6 is directly winning, I think, because you need to do triangulation. But what if we played c6 now in c5? If it does not take c wins. Ah, oh yeah, if it does not take, then he wins. It means if it takes, then he wins. If it does not take, because c6 is a mistaken here in view of king c8, but not b takes c6. King c5, king d8, king d6. Then win king c8, king takes. That's the point. That's why I was also mistaken in this position. At the topic strangulation, we were playing e5. Yes, king c6, king d4, king d7, king d5. White has achieved his aim by describing a triangle with his king. The rest is simple. Because as you can see in this position, what is required in this position? It is black to move. Yes, he comes here. Are we going to play this? Of course. And he is going to play here, here, or here. This is the best. I think yes. Oh no. What? What now? C6? This is going to be a mistake. Then what? King d7. Oh really? Are we going to do a stalemate? No, king d7. That's the point. He comes here, only move here. If he comes here, then there's checkmate. Here is bad. He takes. We take, only move. Here only move. Here only move. And after we made the queen, only move. And after here, only move. And only move checkmate. So that's the point. So in this position, okay, not in this, in the previous position, what happened actually was to reverse the position of the moves. To reverse the moves in the position. Position is same, but moves the side to play the side to play the move right the moment is reversed. That's the main point. Okay, the following position is very important both for itself and as an illustration for the characteristic logic of analyzing corresponding squares. The kings were on d5 and c8 here, but we shall not place them on the board just yet. Let's deal with the squares of correspondence first. Two pairs of squares of reciprocal zigzag are obvious right off. d6 to d8 and c7 c7 c5 c7. What am I telling? C7 c5 what? I was thinking about the c5 c7, but at the last I thought c7. That's why I mistakenly told c5 c7. Okay, the squares d6 and c5, border on d5, and for black the corresponding squares d8 and c7 border on c8. Thus, a standard means of identifying a new correspondence, that of the d5 and c8 squares, along with d5 and c5. White has two equally important what am I telling, squares, c4 and d4, while black has, adjoining the corresponding squares c7 and c8, only one square d8 or b8 with black's king on d8. White makes a winning move with his king from c4 to d4 or the reverse. Black's king will be forced onto c7 or c8 when white occupies the corresponding square and wins. And the move here is, please pause the video. Mm, okay. So the move here is king c4, king d8, king d4, king c8, king d5, king d8, king d6. What's special in this move? Actually, sorry, something I was feeling unusual in my neck. Sorry, throat. Okay, but here the king is on d8, king c8, c7, and black has to resign. How and why? Black, why resign? How and why? Black, why resign? Oh, how and why? Black, why resign? Okay, sorry. So, sorry for that. I'm really sorry. King d4. Yeah, that's the point. He cannot allow us to come here. This is a triangulation. Yeah. Okay. What if he comes here? And this position is clearly winning for white. Okay, it's black to move. Let me flip. Okay. Oh, Udasin Lord or something it was, right? Udasin, I know Udasin, okay. So, not Lord. His name was Lord. Udasin Lord or Lloyd or something like that. I don't know. Something like that I remember. Or I may be also mistaken. Okay, Udasin versus Osnos. Happened in Leningrad 1987. Okay, with his last move was King F2, I think. Yeah, yeah. Udasin offered a draw, adding that this position was a well known draw, which one might find in any book. His opponent, an international master and an experienced trainer, he trained Viktor Korchnoi for many years, believed him, and accepted his offer. Okay, we see in this position, we reach a position which is indeed in all endgame books. Kaharni, and Alpin. But it's a win. Black wins by triangulation. Why a draw was accepted? Hmm. Osnos, trainer of Victor Koshnoi, dream with Udasin in a winning position. Okay, this is a study made by Grigoriev, 1920. Okay, the C3 and E3 squares are obviously corresponding. The white king will break through the E3 in order to set the D pawn. So, in motion, the black king will confront it from the F3 square. The reciprocal zigzag arises when the kings are on D2 and F3. So another pair of corresponding squares is defined. The third pair C2 and F4 is adjacent to those already known. Finally, we come to the squares B3 and B2, which can be used for setting their move because a single square F3 corresponds to them because we play king C2 here as it was better move rather than d4. D4 is a mistake because king e4, king c3, king f5, king d3, and king f4. That's the main thing. So, after we play king c2, what happens? King f4, we play king b3, plays king f3, king b2. What is the problem here? Because this pawn will go forward. Hmm. King f4, king c2, king e5. Now we must discover a new. Suddenly, there is a reciprocal zigzag when the kings are on d2 and d4. So the mind square d2 should be avoided. Whatever. King yeah, king d1, king d2, king d4, king d2, king e5, king e3. Black's only hope is to attack the b4 pawn. Ding dong, ding dong dong. Game over. Hmm. Let's see a diagram. A study made by Nguyen. What? What is his name? N-U-E-N. I don't know how to pronounce it. Please pronounce. Write how to pronounce it in the comments. Nguyen Squander. Made by Nguyen Squander. Sorry if I am pronouncing it wrong. Okay. Made in 1985. Let's do. The natural plan is an attack against d5 pawn. But it should be conducted very carefully. White must take black's counterplay because g7 g6 into account. However, black could have serious difficulties if he was on the move when the kings were on f5 and h6. We come to the conclusion that these squares are mined. King f4. What king h4? With the idea of g5 does not win in view of g6. For example, king h6, g5, king h7, king g4. That is winning. Or f6, g5, king g5, king g7. Rather than g into h5, g into h5 and white creates a distant pass pawn. So king a6, king f5. f6. Of course, this is triangulation. King e6. King g5, king f7, king h6. But what should white do now? The answer is rather simple. He uses triangulation in order to pass the move to black. King into g4 would have been a mistake. King into g7, king into h5, f5, or yes, king into h5, lost. Or if he plays f5, h6, king into f6 was bad actually. What? King e7 rather than king e8, g6, that would be draw. King g5, king f8, king h6, king f7. Same position, but black to move. King h7, king e6, king h6, king into d5. Game over. So let's see some other cases of correspondence. You can see this word. Okay, sorry. Okay. Situations which corresponding squares come in all shapes and sizes. As we know, from the most elementary to cases so complex that most of the unoccupied squares on the board turn out to be the squares of reciprocal zugzwang. How is the correspondence between squares determined? There is no special formula. The sensible way is to find key squares, examine the possible plans for both sides, and calculate the simplest variations. The preliminary analysis may uncover some reciprocal zugzwang situations. From there, you may go on to define an entire network of corresponding squares. The following examples demonstrate how to make a logical analysis of equation. Now I will show you positions, examples. That's why I said about examples. Okay. So do you see this position? So this is for the next video or not? No. This is for today's video because I have ended my videos in so low time. That's why. Black is obliged to defend the key squares e2 and f2, which he can do either by king e3 or king f3. The first appears more natural, the opposition, but let's not be too hasty about drawing a conclusion. White's king will attempt to break through on the queen's side by occupying the key square b3. This too must be prevented with white's king at a2. Black's king is obliged to occupy the b4 square. a4 would be too far from the king side. Immediately we have the whole packet of corresponding squares a2, b4, b1 c5, c1 d4, d1 e3, and e1 f3. As it turns out, the routine king e3 loses. After king d1, black would be in zugzwang, but king f3, king d1, king e3 draws easily. Hmm. Each case demands concrete analysis. You may only take the opposition after having ensured that this will place your opponent in zigzag and not yourself. And If, as in the present example, you must instead said the opposition to your opponent, I call such cases of corresponding squares the anti-opposition. Okay, actually this dialogue was from Mark Dvorsky, not a dialogue, this thing, which I've told you now. This term seems more exact than the term knight's move, opposition. I have seen used. After all, the entire idea of opposition is for the kings to be standing on the same line, not on adjoining lines. Yeah, this is it, raw. Hmm. A study. Oh, I have something. Wait. So you can think in this version. As you can see, it's right to move. Actually, what could happen in this version? The correspondence of the squares f4 and f6 is obvious. On king g6, e7, king f7, king into f5, king into e7, king g6 decides. And when white's king appears on h4, black must be on the g6 square. But not f6 because of king h5. The adjoining squares principle permits us to define yet a third pair of corresponding squares g3, g7. Let's go further. The squares f3 adjoins both f4 and g3. Its obvious correspondent is g6. From h3, the king wants to go to g3 and h4 does correspond the corresponding square for black is f6. Let's pull back one rank and look at the g2 square. From here the king can go to f3, the corresponding square g6, g3, g7 or h3, f6. The only equivalent square for black is f7 but he cannot go there. Thus the solution becomes clear. The g2 square is the key. White must simply retreat his king there, see where black's king goes in response, and go to the corresponding square. King f3, king g6, king g2, king f6. What now? King e3, king g7, king g3, king f6, now king f4. Kind of triangulation. Hmm, that was the point. It had fall on my clothes. Okay, let's focus. Oh, there's a king here. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. This is the point. And that's shown you of the puzzles of corresponding squares. Try to understand by yourself. Kind of a homework something. Okay, king g2. As we can see, draw. Mm. Note that the game position is not new. In 1979, C. Constantini composed it as a study. Of course, G.M. Gulkar did not know this, but he was acquainted with the idea of corresponding squares and was able to put the method successfully into practice. Oh, a note. Let's solve the diagram. Oh, king d5. This was the whole point. Oof, oof. Completely draw, completely draw. Mm. Wait, what? First move king c6 is lost. Draw, draw. Let's see similar position. Of course, the same one. Why all the diagrams are the same? Oh, this is something else. New variation. Okay, I think This position is come. This is a draw. Why did I say it was a draw? I mistakenly said about that. This is a loss for white. This is a full mistake. See, you can see the bar. How is the bar here? What? How is the bar here? What? Why did I don't see a bar? Oh, it is gone. How it was? When I click in a square, then a bar appears. I think. But why is it not appearing now? Can you see this? Oh, you cannot. Oh, I wanted to show it to you. What happened? What just happened? What is this? Why is the boat dancing? What is happening? Is it okay now? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so it's enough for today. Till then, take care, everybody. Till next video, and complete corresponding squares. Till then, take care, everybody. Bye bye.